evening and welcome to the Press Box. My name is Melissa Ponzio, and for the next 30 minutes I'll be your host on Atlanta's newest sports talk show. With me is Jim Feagle and Ty Reynolds. How you doing?
Hey Jim, we missed you.
Yeah, you're on vacation.
Yeah, glad to be back.
Good.
Good to be back.
And we're glad to have you. Tonight's guest is Dean Durham, who is the host of Outdoors with Dean Durham on Sports South. He's here to talk with us about fishing. And for all of those who have tuned in for our swimsuit show thinking that it was tonight, well, psych, it's going to be on the 24th, so you have to tune in then. We're going to start things off tonight talking about the All-Star Game. Okay, so it comes on next Tuesday. What do you think of the selections?
Well, I tell you what, Jim, I'm really happy for Ronnie Gant. Here's a guy that was basically looked over a couple of years, and this is a guy who's giving you back-to-back 30 years, and there's not too many people who've gone out there and done that. Ron Gant, to me, is, if you ever want to look at a player and look at someone with a lot of admiration, that's him. But let's go back and take a look at the beginning of his career. Here he is. He's a second baseman, and then he struggles out there defensively. Then they push him at third base. He struggles there, so then they send him down to the minors in single A to learn how to play the outfield, and this guy has just had the best attitude and just came up through the system again and has really put up great numbers for the Braves.
Yeah, I think Ron Gant is a solid selection, but I think a problem maybe in the reserves is possibly picking Bip Roberts rather than some of the other outfielders. Namely, I think there's two Braves outfielders that probably are putting up a better year, better numbers than Bip. He steals a lot of bases, can play a lot of positions, but does he merit an all-star selection? I don't think so. In the American League, I can't believe Cecil Fielder wasn't nominated. The guy now has got 73 RBIs going into the break. That's I don't know what Kelly was thinking about when he picked him. Apparently, he has no first baseman as reserves in the American League. Ventura's maybe played a little bit of first base, but besides that, besides McGuire, you have no true first baseman. Cecil Fielder, it's an incredible omission.
Yeah, you're right about that. I think the backup first baseman that they were going to have that they listed on the roster was Paul Molitor. And the first thought that came to my mind was maybe that's the only guy from Milwaukee on there. I didn't check the rest of the roster just to make sure, but
he is a first baseman. But with a first baseman, you want that big power.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. But then there's that rule.
The paid people to look and say, Cecil Fielder is the big basher. You're looking for something like that.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, I'd want to see him play.
I was kind of being from Georgia, I was a little disappointed Fleming didn't get nominated. I mean, you go with Mark Langston of all people. My God, I mean, the guy's got over a 4 ERA. His record's just barely over 500. I think he's 9-7. You know, here's a guy who's I believe 10-3, and he's got a 3 and some pocket change for an ERA.
Right.
And you know, it's just incredible that somebody like that would get the nod. But they do have that rule. Somebody's got to go from every team, and just California just had nobody. So it was Mark Langston. Is there anybody you feel like maybe really got snubbed?
Well, one of the players that I was thinking of maybe was Mark Grace with the Cubs, but who else are you going to leave off? I mean, you have Will Clark and you have Fred McGriff. You can only have so many first basemen, I imagine. But Mark Grace is having a very good year with Chicago. He's batting around 330 and has over 40 RBIs. He's been a solid player.
Grace is basically about the 5th best first baseman. You know, I think Murray might have got more of a snub than actually Grace did. I think that you can't argue with McGriff. You can't argue with Kruk leading the league in batting.
No. Exactly. I forgot about Kruk.
Yeah, and Will Clark. I mean, that's the 3 that made it. And then I think Murray's having probably, I think, a better year probably than Grace. You know, more ribbies. He's, your traditional first base kind of guy.
Okay. For the viewing audience at home, if you want to call in with any questions or comments or criticisms, just feel free. The number is 873-6713. With Ron Gant, do you think Bobby Cox just picked him because he was a Brave? I mean, do you even think that he should be on the All-Star team?
Well, going back to what we were saying earlier about Ronnie Gant, this is a player that deserved to be an All-Star, and he was passed over the past couple of years, and I think Bobby Cox is just paying him back something that he was due before. Ronnie Gant's not having one of his better years, although it's pretty good. He's batting around 280, has, 10 homers, and a little over 40 RBIs. And he's not leading the team in home runs like he usually does. He's battling out with him and Justice.
I think Ron Gant's having a fantastic year, and I think as far as stats and carrying the team, he merits all-star recognition. I think if there is any reach as far as Bobby Cox picking an all-star selection, it might be John Smoltz. I think Ron Gant is a legitimate all-star, and he's probably one of the top 5 outfielders in the National League anyway, and he merits that selection. So if anybody, maybe Smoltz got picked, that's probably the closest thing to a question call, and might have some preferential treatment, although he won today. I mean,
he's got 10 wins now.
He does, but there are some other good pitchers that, had it not been Cox, might have gotten the nod. Swindell's a possibility. Bankhead's having a good year in relief, but Smoltz he's a solid choice. But if there is any question call, I don't think there's any doubt Ron Gant needs to be on the All-Star team, and it was justified in picking Ron Gant. Cox was justified in sitting down with Bill White and picking Gant as an All-Star. Smoltz is probably a little closer to a question call. But
Well, talking about the type of year that Gannon's having, I think the Braves would like to get a few more home runs out of him. I think right now he's on the pace to hit about 19 or 20, and the Braves look to get about 30 out of him. So that's where I'm talking about. It's really not a typical Gant year.
Well, his RBIs are actually up. I mean, he's on pace to probably, he gets hot later on in the year, and he's on pace probably to drive in 100 runs. I mean, by nature, he's been a slow starter, and he's actually had a good year as far as RBIs, which is the important stat.
Right.
Home runs without, RBIs are more important than actually home runs. And his batting average is up. He's batting in the 280s now, I believe.
Right, he's in the 280s. I don't know if he's going to get 100 RBIs this year. Maybe about 90 is about what he'll get, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And let's step back from the All-Star game and let's talk about Neon Dion with this deal that he's been given. So the Falcons have given him $1 million offer. Does he have any obligation at all?
Well, Jim, you're the legal expert here, and you probably know that.
I
maybe
haven't seen
he's
the
in a
contract.
What do you think he'll do?
I don't know what the legal object, but morally, I feel like it is a business. These are professional athletes, and this is a business. And I wouldn't, if I were in Dion's position, I wouldn't feel like any obligation to go play with the Falcons. I would probably go and play baseball full time. It's a lot more lucrative sport, and he's got a lot more years that he can
do real good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's take a time out here for a phone call. Hi, caller, you're on the air. Hello? Hi, what's your Okay.
Listen to one of the sports talk shows here on the radio, and one of the season ticket holders for the Falcons called and was talking about a draft pick who the Falcons picked, a guy by the name of Derek Moore. He was talking about how how they said in the listings, under his name and everything, that how he ran a 4.36, and how he had over 2,600 yards while he was in college, and how how other teams seem to pass him over. And I understood that he was in some kind of trouble, I believe, in college. And that's the question I wanted to know. I wanted to know if they know anything about this guy, and what type of NFL player they think he's going to be, and how he's going to have an impact with the Falcons. Thank you.
Where did he go to college? Okay, well, we didn't get that in.
Thank you for calling.
Well, Derek Moore, my mind just doesn't come up with a person or a name right away, but the thing that sort of stayed in my mind is that if he has 4.36 speed, of course, speed at wide receiver isn't everything. Here's Jerry Rice out there for San Francisco, probably one of the greatest receivers we'll ever see in our lifetimes here. And this guy doesn't have blazing speed, but he has that ability just to be a great receiver. It seems like when he's at full stride, before he's catching a pass or as he's going to catch it, or when he's just caught the ball, he's always at that same speed. Jerry Rice is a great receiver. There's no doubt about that, and he doesn't possess that blazing speed. But looking at Glanville and the type of player that he likes, you're looking at people like Michael Haynes and folks like that who are people like track stars, and If the Falcons sit there and want to look at a kid and take a chance on someone that has a type of speed that can run under a 4.40, then he's definitely going to look at him.
The Falcons are so, I don't know enough about this guy really to pass any kind of judgment on him, but the Falcons are so deep at wide receiver that it's going to be tough for really anybody that hasn't established himself to come in and crack their lineup. It's, with Rison and Haynes and just Hill and everybody else.
The main issues here is he a legitimate 4.36, and can he actually catch a pass? I mean, when he's coming over the middle and there's a strong safety like Waters from Philadelphia waiting for you to knock your block off, can he hold on to it? What if it's 3rd and 8 and you got to go over the middle and catch a pass on him? To me, that's what makes a wide receiver, and that's where they earn their money.
Yeah. Okay. Now, on to Braves. Finally, the Reds lost, and we won last night, and tonight we won 4-0. What's going to happen? Are we still in it? Here we are at that All-Star break where we were last year. Are we going good now?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess, what are we now, 5 games back?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
4.5. It's give or take a half game, around 5 games. It's as long as we're keeping close, if we can stay within 6 or 7 games before the break, which would mean worst case scenario, we lose another. I guess we've got 2 games. We're playing on Saturday and Sunday, 2 more with the Cubs.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, if we lost both of those, and let's say hypothetically Cincinnati won both of theirs, we'll be 7 games out. And I still think that's still in striking distance. It's a long season. Baseball's a marathon, 162 games. You've got nearly half the season left, a little less than half the season left, and the Braves have just their starting rotation is so strong. And Cincinnati losing Browning for the rest of the year might cause them some problems. I think the Braves are going to come out on top of this marathon. I really do.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I've harped on this the whole year, and that's this bullpen. Bullpen's going to have to come around and save some games. And we just saw in the last 2 games how important a bullpen is. These are typical games where when it's late and you got a tie game in the 8th inning and it's a contest between the bullpens, well, I'm just ready to turn the TV off and chalk that one up in the loss column. But Alejandro Pena came out and really saved the Braves and Kent Mercker. They got the bases loaded and nobody out in that final game against the Mets in the series, and they were able to. He was able to come out and do what he was supposed to do.
Yeah, Pena. It made you really feel good. I was just feeling I could feel my guts tightening up in that game. It was coming in there, no outs, bases loaded, and getting that little pop fly from Hojo, and then getting that double play. It's just you felt like maybe this is the next year. I mean, last year we were saying I can't believe it, but now it's like getting a little taste of going to the World Series. You want to see him get on back in there.
When looking at this, Jim, this team, if the bullpen does come around, to me, I don't think it's really going to make a difference how many games are out at the All-Star break. They're just going to have to come around. If they don't ever come around despite how good the hitting is or how good the starting pitching is, I think they're through. If it does come around, they have a chance, regardless if they're 4 games out or 7 games out at the All-Star break. I just think that is so important in avoiding injuries with the starting pitching.
Okay. From baseball to basketball, let's just briefly hit on the Dream Team. Not only are they stomping everyone that they're playing, but what I want to know is how you feel about the professionals playing this year. I'm
all for it, and it's about time. I mean, it's nice seeing the amateurs and the college kids being able to go out there and show their stuff, because it would mean a lot to them, whereas you see pros, they're on TV all the time and they're on commercials and so forth. But bottom line that these Olympics come to is winning, and that's putting your best people out there. And here it is, the United States has always had the best basketball players, and here they are getting beat in the Olympics by these other teams that really have players inferior to the NBA talent. So I'm glad to see it.
Jim, briefly?
Yeah, briefly, Europeans don't hold any bars when you're playing soccer. I saw that in the paper today, so it's not mine. But why should we hold anything back when we're playing basketball? I think I'm all for it.
Right. Okay. Good. Well, we're gonna take a short break now and look at our tape of Dean Durham and a slice of life from his show Outdoors with Dean Durham, and we'll be back.
country road. Got a grin on my face and a rabbit's foot for luck. Heading for my favorite fishing hole. The sun is shining bright and the day is all planned. I'm gonna have myself a time. Going down to the river, gonna lay on the sand. Spend the day with you on my mind. 'Cause I love clean country living. I love hunting, I love fishing. I love beautiful places and wide open spaces. Yeah, I love that clean country living.
Okay, we're back, and that was a little clip from Outdoors with Dean Durham that can be seen on Sports South. Briefly, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Sports Life Atlanta Voice, Frankie's at the Prado, and Sporting Times. And with us right now is our special guest, Dean. How you doing?
Great.
Good.
Glad to be here.
Good. To start things out, how did you become involved in TV fishing?
Well, you know, I've always fished and hunted and so forth. My father, I guess, grew me up fishing, and it's just a great sport. And, you know, you try to make a living at what you like. So I've tournament fished for years and years, and I've guided, and I'm kind of an educator, you know, of fishing, and I like to teach young people and so forth, I guess because I spent so many years doing it. And, you know, I could go any way in the industry, you know, maybe working with a tackle company or whatever, but I just chose to try the TV show, and it's been really successful.
You said you like to educate now on your shows. It's not all just fishing. I mean, you teach them techniques.
Well, on our show, we like to entertain them and educate them. You know, we go to various lakes across the country and so forth, and the viewers have the opportunity to go right where we're going. In other words, we provide the number. Say if we're fishing with a guide or whatever, we put their number on the screen. We tell how to get there. We talk about a seasonal pattern of that lake and tell how to catch the fish. And you know, we got special segments too. We got kid segments on the show. We've got a cooking segment on the show, you know, and I've also got a tip on how to rig a lure or something like that, you know, so it all works very well.
Dean, your show, when is it on? When can people view it, and what channel and what time?
In Atlanta, we're on 4 networks in 41 states, and in Atlanta, most people can see it on Sports South on Thursday nights at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
And also WTLK Channel 14, it's standard television on Saturday morning at 7:30. But Sports South is the largest viewership.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I was just going to ask, what's the biggest largemouth you ever caught on a show when you're filming?
I caught a 13-pound 8-ouncer about a month ago out in Lake Fork, Texas, which is a big bass lake, and I caught him right on tape there and let him go right on tape.
Let 'em go.
Now, how heavy was that catfish that you caught that we saw on film there?
That fish weighed about 55 pounds. Wow. I caught that fish over in Santee Cooper Lakes and in South Carolina, you know, and those fish grow huge over there. And it's and we caught this one, we caught 4 that day, and one weighed 55, and I think the smallest one weighed 15 pounds that day.
What were you using to catch them?
We were using live brim that we had caught earlier on a bait. You know, it's illegal to seine brim and so forth, but if you catch them on standard conventional tackle, you can fish with them. And we were using a big brim that was big enough to eat, as big as your hand.
You mentioned Texas. Where have you been fishing? I mean, you meant Texas, of course, Florida, Georgia. I mean, have you been to all different countries?
Well, I fished the Bassmaster Tournament Trail, and through that trail, I've traveled all over America. But Mainly in the southeast. You know, we got a large viewership in the southeast, and we, you know, on the show we've been to Texas and Florida and Tennessee and Carolinas and so forth, and we got trips planned up to New York this year and out to Colorado and so forth. And we're trying to, you know, I'm primarily a bass fisherman, but we're trying to fish for all types of fish. You know, the viewers want to see us catch brim and crappie and bass and saltwater. We do a lot of saltwater shows and so forth. So we're going to get around to just about what everybody likes, you know.
Okay, we have a phone call. Hi, caller, you're on the air. Hello?
Yeah, I was just wondering, what's the biggest catfish you ever caught?
Catfish. Thank you for calling.
55 pounds. We caught it over in Santee Cooper, South Carolina, about 2 months ago. Caught it out of 40 feet of water on a live brim, weighed 55 pounds. A flathead cat.
Wow. That was the one that we did see on the tape,
Yeah, that's
right?
the one on tape. It was, we had to show that.
Yeah.
And we let it go.
You let it go.
We let all our fish go. You know, catch and release is a big thing now in the fishing world. And somebody asked me earlier tonight, you know, why don't you keep these fish? Well, you know, there's 60 million people in America that fish, and if everybody kept one fish every time they went, we wouldn't have any fish.
Right.
So.
I was told when I was a small child that when you caught a fish, it would hurt their mouth when you caught it, and then you would throw it back, and then they would be afraid to eat. Is that true or no?
Well, I have, nobody knows, you know, we
Right.
can't talk to the fish, but, you know, it hurt me, but I've caught a bass before, maybe that broke my line. I can remember 2 instances in my life where I caught a fish that broke my line, and then the next cast I threw in and caught that fish.
Oh, really?
And then I have caught fish and tagged them. I used to tag fish and I have caught fish and tagged them and let them go, and 10 minutes later catch that same fish. So I don't believe. I believe if you catch a fish carefully and don't wear him down and don't handle him very much, and you know, remove the hook carefully and let him go, I think he's fine. It's proven that there's a success rate on releasing fish.
For just the lay person who doesn't really know a whole lot about when's the best time, when is the best time to go out and fish? You know, sometimes you sit out there and you just don't, you can't buy a bite,
Yeah.
you know. Is there certain times, you know, you see those little tables in the paper, but
Yeah.
they don't make heads or tails to, you know, to somebody.
Well, my grandfather told me the best time to go is when they're biting, so you got to remember that. But I don't know. I think you know, the springtime is the easiest time to catch fish when they're shallow. But you know, all fish are like any kind of wild creature. They feed early in the morning and late in the evening. So you know, early and late is always best. But you know that it can really get complicated. You know, it takes years of really fishing to learn how to stay on fish all the time. And you know, I learned a lot by fishing the tournaments all over the country and fishing for money and trying to make a living by catching them. So I had to produce, you know, to make a living. Yeah. So I had to learn how to catch them. But that's really a loaded question. You know, you just have to go. But, you know, it's not just the catching. Just being out there, you know, and enjoying nature and enjoying fishing, you know, is the fun of it. You know, you don't have to catch them to really enjoy it, although it's a bonus. So that's the way to look at it. If you catch them, it's a bonus.
Dean, what are some of the hot lures that you're using now? Are there any particular that are just really catching a whole lot of fish right
For
now?
bass?
Uh-huh.
Well, you know, again, there's so many lures on the market that work.
Well, you brought some here. You want to show?
Well, I got a few. You know, I didn't know the top water baits are good. Now, there's a new lure on the market this year called a sluggo, and this is a plastic type swimming bait. It's a plastic worm that is shaped with a rounded belly and a flat back. And you hook it without a lead or anything, and you throw it out, and you just swim it through the water. It has no resistance, and this thing darts side to side. It's probably the latest craze in fishing. It's probably produced more fish.
What was the name of that again?
It's called a sluggo.
Sluggo.
That's the company that originated it, and since then, a lot of the plastic companies have copied it and so forth. And I think every company nowadays has got one. But this has been the latest thing that's been hot in the last couple of years, and the pros on the national circuit kept it a secret for a couple of years. And finally the word leaked out through the media, and now everybody's onto it. But it just seems to be something that bass have never seen. It's a different movement, and it's certainly a natural looking bait, you know, and it's really worked.
You know, in this state, obviously, it rains a lot, and just going past lakes, you see that the water's real muddy. Someone's going out fishing, it's just raining a lot, and you have all this muddy water. What would be the best type of lure to use?
In muddy water? Well, muddy water is if it's cold, it's wintertime, that's the worst time you can go. Cold, muddy water, I wouldn't even go. I'd stay home, clean my tackle, or watch the Braves or Falcons or something, or the Bulldogs. But muddy water, if it's fresh, fish kind of get shocked for a day or two with fresh, muddy water. So nothing really works well. But you want a vibrating bait, like a spinner bait, something that puts out vibrations. Fish can see, if you got water that you can see 1 inch in, a bass can see 6 feet in. If you can see 4 feet, a bass can see 20 feet. If you can see 20 feet, a bass can see 60 feet. So they can see, but they feed by a lateral line. They pick up, it's kind of a built-in radar. So I've caught fish in just red mud, tomato soup looking corn planting type stuff. I mean, you could plant your corn on it. It's so muddy, And but they'll bite, but the frontal systems affect fish. You get a low pressure coming in fish feed, and then a pretty bluebird sky afterwards, a front we call it. They don't feed normally then, but fishing is experimental. You got to get out there and just experiment it, and most fishermen do. And if you learn to try things, colors, techniques, and so forth, you'll be successful.
Now, you mentioned cold water. Now, since it was 93 degrees today, I would think that the water would be a little more hot. So what happens then with fishing?
Well, unlike a reservoir, say like Lake Lanier, which is right here near Atlanta, the water has got a thermocline. The surface water's hot, and you go down so deep, and then you get a cooler type water, so the fish just go deeper.
Okay, so what would you do in that case?
Well, fish deeper. I would take a plastic worm or some kind of spoon or a deep diving bait and just fish down in that deeper water. And a bass is a structure-oriented fish. He's much like a cat. They compare a bass to a cat. He's a predator. And he'll ambush his prey, and he won't get out and just run something down. He'll live next to a stump or under a tree or something and wait on that fish to come by, and he'll run out and grab it. So, if you find a bunch of rock underwater or underwater structures, and probe around with a plastic worm this time of year, you'll probably catch it.
Are there any different strategies that you have in maybe placing your sinker on your line, maybe right up next to the bait or to the lure, or maybe a few inches or even a foot away from the lure?
Well, there's basically two types of rigs in a plastic worm. One is called a Carolina rig, and this is where your sinker is up in front of your bait. And then the Texas rig is where the sinker slides freely up and down the line. Well, you just have to experiment. You open water, the Carolina rig is good, and heavy structure, the Texas rig is good. Again, just experiment.
Experiment is the key.
Right.
I'd like to thank you so much for coming on our show.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. I wish we had some more time. There's so much more questions I had for you.
Sure.
We didn't even get saltwater fishing in.
Saltwater fishing. I mean, I know.
Well,
okay.
I'd like to wish everybody good luck, good fishing.
Thanks. Good fishing for everyone. I'd like to thank our guest, Dean Durham. And again, his program is Outdoors with Dean Durham, and you can see that on Sports South. 7 o'clock Thursday night. Okay. For those who are tuning in for the swimsuit edition, well, you have to tune in the 24th. And next week's guest will be Rick Rappa, who will be talking about baseball cards and sports collectibles. I'd like to thank once again, our sponsors, Sports Life, Atlanta Voice, Frankie's at the Prado, Sporting Times. See you next Friday at 8:30. Bye.
I was just talking about those stumps. You gotta, if you get a fish, you gotta get her out quick. Oh, there she goes. You got her. Pretty good fish. Good fish. Good fish. Good fish. That's a nice one. Good fish. All right. All right.
Fish had me wrapped up.
Ooh. Look at that rod.
Fish is powerful.
That's good.
Nice one. Man, that fish is strong. I can't hardly do it.
Whoa.